Hello everybody, my name is KirkpattieCake. I'm an author and robot, and today we're going to talk about, is your idea original enough to make it in the marketplace, or to even just write it all, or will people think that you're some kind of knockoff nasty that nobody wants to get involved with? Questions. These are the questions that all of us wonder when we start putting fingers to keyboard or fingers to paper, whatever. But before we get started, yes, it's time to remind you about LBRY. It's down below in the description. Check it out. Maybe submit. Maybe. Be a good time. Maybe it'll make you anxious. I don't know. I can't make promises like that, but do check it out. Number 2 is keep your eyes peeled for the Dead End Drive audiobook. Tell your friends, tell your lovers, tell your mailman. If you need a delicious story to listen to when you're driving to and fro, when you're trying to fall asleep, and you want to feel like you're about to die. Maybe you won't feel like you're about to die, but it is set in a house, and it is a house of murder and mayhem. So check it out. The characters are fantastic, and the talent behind it is incredible. Follow him on Twitch, so when he streams his recordings, you can trail along with it. His Twitch is down in the description below as well, and so that's all that I gotta say. Like, share, subscribe. I'm not going to talk about that again. Let's get into it. So I know one of the big questions that comes up often when you're talking about ideas and you're talking about creativity and you're in writing circles, whether it usually I feel like with people just getting into writing or newbie writers, is there's a little bit of low self-esteem or low confidence in, is my idea original enough? Or everybody's always saying you have to be original, and if you are not original, if you go with something that's more generic a premise, maybe what you might call a trope, you know, the chosen one, the orphaned chosen one, right? The journey of the only one, like Lord of the Rings, like Star Wars, what have you. If you go with the orphaned boy who lives under the staircase who gets invited to a magical school in another land, like, will you look like a knockoff of something that's already popular? Is that overdone? So many vampires. Can you be original? When has an idea been worn out? The answer is that you can do anything that you want to do in writing. It's that there is no idea that is so overplayed. Now, you're going to get different. Hear me out. All right, hear me out, all of you industry people. Hear me out specifically. There is such a thing as oversaturation, and that's like when everybody is writing the same thing and you've just got so many vampires that nobody knows where to go for a good vampire. But granted, everybody is always looking for the next big vampire story because everybody really loves vampires. There is such a thing as oversaturation. Know that back when the Walking Dead television show started, everybody was doing zombies. Slowly, zombies have become less popular, but they're still obviously there. It's just not that everybody is coming up with the next zombie story or trying to do the next zombie story right now in pop culture, so we get a bit of a break from that. But there is no idea that is so overdone that it is completely unoriginal. And if you get inspired, I know one of the areas where this might come out for some people with feeling like you're not special enough or like you're copying off somebody, is if you're inspired by a song, if you're inspired by another book, then it might feel like you're plagiarizing an idea or you're not original enough. How many times can we hear the story about boy meets girl, boy and girl fall in love, boy and girl fight, boy and girl can't be together, whatever. Originality has nothing to do with that. Okay, I'm going to break the secret down for you of where original stories come from. Are you ready? You don't even need a pen and pencil, but if you think you might forget, you can get one. Originality doesn't come from the story that you're telling or from the tropes that you're using or from whether or not you jump those tropes, flip the tropes, whatever it is, and surprise people with how you use those tropes. Originality comes from the way that you envision a story. So perhaps the story of boy meets girl, boy and girl can't be together, and boy and girl eventually get together has been done. But it hasn't been done by you. And it hasn't been done in that setting by you. The thing that makes a story original is the voice of the author being behind it and the vision of the author being behind it. Creativity is entirely original by the way of the individual creative putting it through their vision, putting it through their whatever it is they want to describe, and creating characters that match whatever it is that the author or creative wants to express. So I'm not saying this very well. If you set out to specifically write Harry Potter fan fiction, okay, you can have original ideas in there, but are you totally original? Not necessarily in the way that you're copying somebody else's story or using their setup, but you are original in the way that you're imagining those characters, because Harry Potter hasn't been written by you. Now, that doesn't mean that you can go and take Harry Potter and then just write Harry Potter and publish Harry Potter as, you know, Johnny Johnson's version of Harry Potter. You still have to come up with your own original situation in which to be in. And if that situation is orphan boy living under a staircase with abusive family gets invited to Magic Town, well, tell us what that story looks like for you. And that's really where originality comes in storytelling. I know everybody's favorite person on YouTube is Brandon Sanderson, so I'm going to go ahead and quote him. Everything has been done, but not in every way. It hasn't been done in your way. Your vision of a dystopian future hasn't been done. Your way of a utopian future hasn't been done. Your way of a monster hiding under the bed hasn't been done. So if you ever wonder if, can I do this? Is this unoriginal? Can I actually do zombies again? The answer is yes. Tell us the story as you have it. Don't look for other people to copy. Find what it is important for you to say. Find out who those characters are inside of you, rattling to get out and have their story told. It's when the characters are written in your perspective, with your ideas, your vision, your concept of the world, that it makes it original. If you look at Dead End Drive, obviously, and I shouldn't have to say this, all of those characters aren't exact matches for who I am as a person. However, the Murder Mansion, going for the Murder Mansion Battle Royale, Southern Inheritance, blah blah blah, is not an original idea. It's a fairly common concept. A battle royale specifically is a fairly common concept. And then you go battle royale in a mansion over money, a rat race. Come on, it's just another version of a rat race. But the way that I interpreted the characters, the way that I created the characters, the voices of the characters, the ideas behind that inspired each of the characters is what makes it an original concept, an original version of those ideas. And that actually comes through with, even with the bad reviews of people that didn't like it because either A, they were offended, or B, they didn't emotionally connect with characters. Every last one of them said, well, I was at least surprised because I didn't know what the frick I was getting myself into. Welcome to my head, my friends. Welcome to the insane asylum. So, where you really get your power as a creative is being as honest with yourself as possible and developing that voice that's inside of you. And that sounds kind of hooky. It really might not make much sense to somebody who's much more logic-minded and doesn't really understand how creativity works. But you also might not know what your creative voice is without practicing a lot and a lot and a lot to start unlocking what it is that you like to say and how you like to say it without thinking of what other people will think about you. Because we do a lot of self-censorship. We don't want to look stupid. We don't want to look unoriginal. We don't want to look like copycats. We don't want to fail. And so we often self-censor ourselves so that that kind of thing that we're afraid of doesn't get out and then people don't judge us for it. But personally, I don't think that you will find your creative stride if you don't give yourself permission to fail, permission to do something stupid, write about, like I did, a butthole in your side of having your intestines set up so it comes out your side instead of your butt. That doesn't make sense. I know. Or, giving yourself the opportunity to write about a magical elephant box that if you stick stuff in it, it gets bigger. And apparently this guy just got his magical elephant box, and the first thing that he thought that he wants to put in it? I bet you can guess. Letting yourself be silly, letting yourself fail, letting yourself write a poor draft and another bad draft and another bad draft until you eventually find, hey, that's the voice that I was looking for. Oh, hey, I didn't know that I had that in me. Or, oh, hey, I recognize that as either, somebody in my life, or an amalgamation of somebody's in my life, or some idea that I really care about, or some voice that I really care about. In order to be absolutely original, it's all in your point of view, sharing your point of view, how you see the world, whether it's very, very specifically, this is exactly how I see the world, or it's an analogy of how you see the world, or it's some kind of speculative, fantastical transformation of how you see the world, where everything is sort of a metaphor for different ways that you interpret the world. Like with Dead End Drive, you look at it and it's showing the absurdities that I see in the world in a lot of different ways. That's kind of how it's a satire. I saw so much ridiculousness and I splatted it into that book. And I love that book. But that's how you be original, is you find your voice, you find your characters, and you allow yourself the ability to just write those people, to write those characters, and to practice and to fail and to get better. And that's just it. I think when I come across this question, generally it is because people are afraid of looking silly, or of having that failure, or of being made fun of for their ideas or their different point of view, or being called unoriginal or a knockoff or a whatever. Now, plagiarizing is something completely different. We can talk about plagiarizing, and that is when you take something that somebody else did and you directly kind of just barely shift it and you put it over here. Now, if you see a story that uses dragons in a certain way and you're like, hey, that's really cool, I would like to use dragons in a certain way, you can take that, tweak it to your POV, and then build it into your story however that is. If you see tropes that you like, you can take those tropes that you saw in that book, you can take character ideas that you saw in that book. Hey, that book had a skater in it. I want to write a skater character. So then you start defining and developing your skater character and putting them in this other story, and finding your point of view in that character. It's okay to be inspired by somebody else, and it's okay to kind of take all of these little elements from all of these other places and repackage it in your point of view. In a way, and I heard somebody talking about this forever ago, and I don't remember who it was, but they were talking about artists talking to other artists through art, and one of the ways is through Megan Dia wrote Monsters in response to a book that they'd read, and I can't remember the book off the top of my head, but they wrote that song inspired by a book. And if you look it up, you can find it. And there are a lot of songs that are written inspired by books, and artists actually do talk to artists a lot, hearing something or reading something and then wanting to write something else. Often you'll see the author that wrote something inspired by a song. That's really, really normal. At this point, I'm just repeating myself, so I'm going to close it out so you don't have to listen to me say this again forever and ever and ever. Originality is your point of view. It's how you package the world, it's how you create characters, the good and the bad, and how you express good and bad, or grays, or whether you believe in absolute or relative, and how you show those different ways in which you interpret the world, because your characters and your narrations and the way that you speak of different people in your books will betray how you feel about them. Now, it's not saying that if you have like a terrible person who approves of murder or approves of bad behaviors of some kind, that somehow reflects on what you believe, but it reflects on how you see things happening around you, and you've captured those things. You've seen that person who's a murderer or that person who's a cheat, and you've reimagined it to show other people how you see the world. And that's really where originality and creativity come from, is you are teaching other people how you see the world. When you're copying other people and trying to match them, you're not being original. That's basically it. So is any idea original? It is original when you approach it your way, doing your thing. That's pretty much the end of it. So don't ever let an idea that, if you think it's overdone, if you think it's too much of a trope, don't ever let that thought stop you from writing your story. And if you need any more evidence, we see this every month, okay? I give everybody the same prompt in LBRY, and every month we have a completely different story from everybody that applies. Same as to you. Give 10 people the chosen one storyline, and we're going to have 10 completely different stories. So no idea is ever too unoriginal for you to pursue it and show us how you interpret that idea. I hope that was encouraging. I hope I wasn't too rambly, because I know that this was a much more rambly video than I tend to do, but I wanted to give some kind of, I don't know, pep talk. That's what you can call it. If you have any thoughts on this subject, let me know in the comments down below. If there are any topics that you would like me to cover, also let me know in the comments down below, because I only live to serve. Mostly. That said, thanks for coming in. Happy Monday, and see you next time. Don't die. Dear Madam Astra, that's me. We regret to inform you that on August 1st, your employer, Agatha Jane Benedict, owner of the Benedict estate, peacefully passed away in her sleep. Oh, that's so sad. Wait. Let me try that again. Oh my goodness, that's so sad. Yeah, I think I'm ready. With millions of dollars on the line and the opportunity for your every need to be taken care of for life, tell me, Is there anything more valuable than that? I didn't think so. Dead End Drive is a dark comedy novel that makes 3 promises. 1, an illustrious estate in Louisiana. 2, an opulent dinner affair for all in attendance. And 3, and most importantly of all, lots and lots of competitive murder. So if you're looking for a cozy book to settle in with for the spooky season, I've only got one question for you. Will I see you at the whale reading?
Only losers lose!